the next episode, but it's the same day. I'm just sitting here thinking, wow, I don't know who's going to win the Super Bowl. It's going to be over by the end of this video. So at the end of this video, I'll show you who won the Super Bowl. Oh, by the way, it's already been leaked in the script. The winners of the Super Bowl are... It's the weirdest thing. It's like my audio cut out. Hello everyone, my name is Stonsey Boy and welcome back to Reading with Stonsey. Today we are reading pages 200 to 220. We are very close to finishing this book. So we have today's episode, which is a normal episode. Next episode will only be 19 pages. And episode after that will be 20. And then after that, it'll only be 17 pages. And then we are done with this book. Which saddens me, because this has actually been a fantastic read. I might finish this entire book tonight. I don't know. You know, I'm genuinely thinking about it, too, because it's been fun. It's honestly been a really good book. I like this book so far. Would it be one of my favorites? No. Too much use of sex and stuff, and I'm a baby, and the sex is scary. Sex scares me. But yeah. So, without further ado, well, actually, hold on. Maybe not without further ado. Hold on. I don't want to lose my voice. If I want to do the other videos, I need to take a drink of water. Here you go, guys. Go to your local Stater Brothers and get yourself some ST brand water. They're not owned by me, but hey, they got ST. Someone, I remember reading not a comment, but someone talking to me, and I told them I did YouTube, and they said if I ever did a group channel, I should do a group channel with someone named Desmond, and I asked them why, and they said so you could be the STDs. That man was quickly sent to the burning furnace of the underworld, and I wrote that down somewhere. That's funny, and I like that. So without further ado, maybe a few sneezes here and there. Let's begin. And keep Avery away from her, he added, like he'd always liked breaking things. How long? Couple weeks, maybe. Mostly we'll just keep an eye on her. How's she doing? Too aware of his son to give in with his eyes. The gardener pressed a kiss against my forehead. You take such good care of them, Maya. Thank you. I nodded because it seemed safer than talking. He moved past us into a room and Teresa's song filtered, but gained strength when he did all was pull out a chair from the corner and listen to her play. Desmond and I stood in a hallway for several seconds, waiting to see if the choppiness would return. But he sounded like it was a recital, all smooth grace and memorization. When there didn't seem to be an immediate threat of the new breakdown, he gently tugged on my hand and led me down the hall. Are you hungry? I'm really not. His father would have insisted on eating anyway, but because skipping meals isn't healthy. His brother would have insisted on my eating because it would have amused him to watch me force food past my nausea. But Desmond simply said, okay, and led me to the cave. It was empty, everyone else was in the dining room, but he was in the center of the damp room. He stopped, turned, and put his arms around me, holding me close. He's right about one thing, he said of my hair. You do take good care of them. The only reason I knew it was because of the apartment. Because Sophia mother was all in a lightly warped way. In Lionette, Sophia took care of the girls. But Lionette taught me how to tend butterflies. It must be hard to adjust this place like this. If you've been on the street, he said. To be safe, but not allowed to leave. We weren't from the street, and we weren't safe. I just didn't know how to make him understand that. If the girls in glass hidden away. We eventually went into the kitchen. One of the panic receded enough that my appetite would make itself known. As we ate bananas and nil wafers, Adara popped her head in and promised to stay with Teresa through the nights. Adara's impression gave her a different perspective than the rest of us, and she had to carefully piece herself back together several times before. I kissed her cheek because I didn't have the words to thank her properly. Danielle volunteered her time to cause as well, inviting the gardener back into her room like she used to in the days when she'd earned the wings on her face. I don't think he was blind to the reason for it, but I think he was touched by it nonetheless, because even if it wasn't for his sake, it was at least for Teresa's. Doing a good thing for another butterfly was the same as doing for him. Desmond poured a glass of milk and perched it next to me on the counter, raising a glass between us. If I were to do something really pathetic, do you think you could pretend like it to humor my ego? I looked at him warily. I'd love to be supportive and say yes, but I can't promise that without knowing what it is. He drained that glass in one gulp. Come on, I'll show you. Isn't it a way of being supportive if I say I'm scared but will come along anyway? It'll do. He lifted me on the counter and took my hand as we walked to the kitchen and into the garden. There was a little bit of light out, the twilight painting across the sky. I watched the colors change. He ducked us behind the waterfall into the cave, let go of my hand. Wait here. He came less than a second later. Close your eyes. And then Desmond told me to do something more to the point. When I actually did it, I didn't feel like I was merely obeying. I obeyed the gardener. I obeyed Avery. Desmond was more careful of what he asked me to do. The waterfall down the music, down his movements. But after a moment, I heard music. Music that I already recognized. Sway? It was Sophia's favorite song. The one she danced to with the girls at the end of every visit. And she didn't hear the last notes without crying. Desmond took my hands and placed them on his hip. I stepped in close. Open your eyes. As an iPod and speakers safely dry portion of the floor near the hallway, he smiled at me, a little bit nervously, and placed a lopsided shrug. Dance with me? I don't. I took a deep breath and somehow a nervous smile on my lips. I don't know how to dance. That's okay. All I can do is waltz. You can waltz? Mother's charity functions. Ah. He pulled me even closer until my cheek rested in his hands and shoulders. He swayed us back and forth. He held our joined hands against his chest. It was another hand sliding small on my back. Softly, almost inaudibly at first, he was starting to sing along. I let him lead, burying my face in his shoulder to hide whatever face I was showing. There's a moment when you know suddenly everything's changed. Most people in the moment many times in their lives. I had it when I was 3, and I realized my dad wasn't like the rest of his family. I was when I was 6, and I sat on a fucking carousel as everyone walked away. I had it when I had to take a taxi to my grand's, when my grand died. When Noemi poured me the first drink at the apartment. I had it when I woke up in the garden, and I got a new name that was supposed to eradicate everything I had been before. And now, in the arms of a strange, unaccountable boy, I knew even if else changed, everything was different. And I couldn't change him, convinced the trick and manipulating to contribute to freedom I wanted for all of us. But I wouldn't be without a price. Des. I could feel his grip against my temple. Yes? Right now, I could hate you a little. And then he stopped dancing. His smile faded. Why? Because you were royally fucked up. I took a slow, deep breath and thought about to say next. And because you're going to break my heart. Does this mean you love me too? My mother taught me to make sure the man always says it first. He leaned it back a little, just enough to see my face. Did she really? Yes. I don't think he could tell if I was serious or not. The song ended, rolling over something I should really have recognized. You put some space between us. Who am I saying it to? Because you may answer to Maya, but it's not who you are. I shook my head. I can't think like that. Not when I don't have any chance to be that person again. His face fell, but honestly, what did you expect? He got down on one knee, holding my hands. He smiled up at me. I love you, man. I swear I'll never hurt you. I'd believed every part of it. I didn't want to feel guilty of it, but I did. He perched his knee and I kissed him, and he got involved in kissing me back, and it overbalanced, and we both fell into a damp stone. He laughed and kept kissing me, and I knew I could never believe the rest of it. Desmond wasn't good, no matter how much he wanted to, and better than his family just wasn't enough. Every day he helped keep us here. He hurt me. I didn't recite Poe that time, in case you were wondering. No, for that I'm sure you were paying full attention, Victor agrees dryly. So, were you serious? What, me and Des? Well, yes, but more specifically, what you said about your mother. Actually, yes. He ponders that for a moment, tries to make sense of it. He fails. Still want to find out who I am and where I came from? Yes. Why? He sighs and shakes his head. Because I can't put a fake person to a stand. I'm not a fake person. I'm carefully and genuinely handcrafted. He shouldn't laugh, but he really shouldn't laugh because he does, then he can't stop. He's leaning against the table trying to at least muffle the sound. When he finally looks up, she's smiling at him, the real one this time, and she answers gratefully. The real world intrudes, doesn't it? She asks gently, and his laughter fades. Keep me honest. It hurts you to ask, and it hurts you to listen. Even when so much of you heard it before. I like you, Special Agent Victor Hanoveran. Your girls are lucky to have you. The story's almost over anyway. Then it can't hurt for a little while. The end of the summer brought a shift to the garden. Desmond had spent so much time he had become a fixture, and even though I was only one he touched, I wasn't the only one who he got to know him. Teresa liked him more when he talked to me because music crossed the boundaries of our cage and made her forget, even just for a while. Even Bliss seemed to like Desmond, though I wouldn't stake a wager on how much that was for my sake. Gradually, the girl felt comfortable with him in a way they never felt with father or brother, because he was never going to ask anything of them. Most of them had given up hope for trying to rescue. So there wasn't even much bitterness as to why he didn't report anything, and the gardener was over the moon. The first time we talked about Des, he said his mother's very proud of him. I had thought that meant that he wasn't, but I knew better now. He was always proud of Desmond, and when faced with the girl who knew only Avery, he had to acknowledge the son who openly shared the same fascination, which keeping an unwilling harem. Now that Desmond was part of the garden, his father's happiness was complete. Teresa's breakdown was the only one that summer. There was no accidents, no 21st birthdays. Nothing to force us to remember that we wouldn't have a little bit of fun. Well, except for the gardener and Avery still raping at will, and that put a damper on things. But the gardener shifted how he treated me. After Desmond and I had sex, the gardener didn't touch me that way anymore. He treated me like, well, like a house mother, I guess, or a daughter. I wasn't like Lorraine. I wasn't being exiled for his affection, but somehow he decided I was Desmond's now. With Avery, he shared. With Desmond, he gave. Fuck up, no. Just for a while, I was willing to accept without question. If I was going to have any hope of moving Desmond, It couldn't be infatuation. I needed him to truly love me and willing to fight for me. That wasn't going to happen if he was still sharing me with his father and brother. The gardener even disabled a camera in my room because Dez asked him to. He said it made him feel self-conscious. His father had watched him have sex, and it couldn't be trusted not to hurt me when he loved me so dearly. Okay, I'm sure the conversation was a bit more graceful and manly than that, but Bliss said the girls in stitches in a free version of it. Desmond was still his father's son, though. Whenever I tried to walk him to the door, he politely but firmly sent me away, and I couldn't see him put in the code. It would destroy my mother, he said, when I finally mentioned it. Taking direct action against the father would be complicated. I got that, but why not give us a chance to rescue ourselves? My family's name, our reputation, our company. I can't be the one to destroy that, because the name means more than a life, than all of our lives. The weekend before the fall semester started, we had a concert in the garden. Desmond brought in better speakers to set him up the cliff. It was just the evening. The gardener gave us bright colors and treats, and it was pathetic how happy we were that evening. We were still captives. We still had death sitting in the shoulders and counting down the 21st birthdays. But that night was magical anyway. Everyone laughed and danced and sang, no matter how badly the gardener and Desmond danced with us. Avery sat off to one side and sulked, because the whole thing had been Desmond's idea. After we cleaned everything up and the girls split off in the rooms for the night, Des brought the smallest speaker back to my room, and we danced, swaying the buttons as we kissed. The intimacy in Des wasn't real, any more than his father. But he didn't realize that. He never said it, but he thought I loved him too. He thought this was happiness, that this was somehow healthy and stable, the kind of thing you build a life around. He never missed or glossed over my frequent reminders that caged things have shorter lives. Des wanted so badly to be good, to do good, but our circumstances hadn't changed, nor were they likely to. When we finally tumbled onto bed and almost dizzy from his kisses, he couldn't stop laughing. His hands were everywhere. He followed them with his mouth, his laughter tickling my skin. Sex with Des was an intimacy. It was fun. He drove me crazy with his teasing until I finally rolled us over and pinned him, biting my lip and I sank down onto him. He groaned and rolled his hips and then laughed, and really inappropriate song started playing. When I slapped his stomach, he sat up to kiss me dizzy again, then pushed me onto my back at the foot of the bed. This is when I saw Avery standing in the doorway and scowling as he jacked himself off. I yelped, not proud of that, and Desmond looked up to see what was on me. Avery, get out! I have as much right as her to you as you do, Avery growled. Get out! There's a small part of me that was about to die laughing. Fortunately, the Bartley was mostly squished by a general sense of fury and mortification. I thought of reaching for a blanket, but Avery had seen all of me before, and Desmond, well, his bits weren't exactly showing at the moment. I closed my eyes and they argued overhead, because I didn't know how Avery still had himself hand in hand while he fought with his brother, because of the laughter was threatening to win. But enter the gardener, because of course. What the hell is going on? Avery, put that away! I opened my eyes to see Avery fastening his pants and the gardener trying to button his shirt. Oh, look, the whole family except for Eleanor, swearing under his breath. Desmond pulled away from me and handed me a dress before reaching for his pants. Sometimes it's the little things. Would you care to explain why our argument is carrying over the entire garden? The gardener demanded, his voice low and dangerous. The brothers started talking over each other, but the father cut them off with a sharp gesture. Maya! Des and I were having sex, and Avery decided to invite himself to the party. He was just standing at the door and jacking it. After a wince of the crudeness, the gardener stared at the firstborn. The gardener slowly joined in appalled horror. What were you thinking? Why does he get to have her? He never helped you bring any of them in. He's never gone out with you and find them. But you give her the whole fucking bride, and now I'm not even allowed to touch her. It took a minute for the gardener to find his voice. Maya, would you please excuse us? Of course, I answered politely, because his courtesy is as much bitch of his disdain. Would you like me to leave? No, this is your room, Desmond. Join us, please. Avery, come. I stayed on the bed until I could hear the footsteps anymore. When they pulled my dress and raced down the hall to Bliss's room, she sat on the floor with a stack of clay beside her and looked like a teddy bear masquer on cookie sheets in front of her. What was the fuss? I sprawled on the bed and told her. She giggled herself into hysterics. How long do you think until he bans Avery completely? I don't know if he would ever do that, I said regretfully. Avery is hard enough to control when he's here. How much harder is it out there? We'll never find out. That's true. He handed me a ball of clay to knead. Can I ask you something personal? Personal like that. Do you love him? I almost asked which him, especially when we'd just been talking about Avery. But I realized that she meant half a second before I caught myself look like an idiot. I glanced up at the winking red light of the camera and slid off the bed and we're hunted together. No. Then why are you doing all this? But do you believe a butterfly escaped? No, maybe, sort of. Wait. Well, suddenly the world makes sense again. Think it'll work? I don't know, I sighed, needing a ball of clay. He's horrified of being his father's son, but he's also proud. For the first time in his life, it's easy for him to see that his father is proud of him. That still means more to him than I do. He's too scared to think right or wrong. If there ever been a garden, if you met him in the library or something, do you think you'd love him? Honestly, I don't think I know what that kind of love is. I've seen it in a few others, but for myself, maybe I'm just not capable of it. I can't decide if that's sad or safe. I can't think of any reason it can't be both. The couple across the street loved each other almost a distraction. The arrival of their baby somehow made them more complete, rather than detracting them from what was between them. Rebecca, the lead hostess of the Evening Star, deeply loved her husband, who happened to be the Gulliam's nephew, and sometimes seeing them together was sweet. We all melted a little, even as we teased them, of course. Taki and Karen had it, their daughter and their wife had it, but each time I saw it, I knew there was present in something extraordinary, something that not everyone found was capable of recognizing and sustaining. And I'm not the first person to admit I'm the one fucked up individual. That's fair and honest. He took a clay from me and handed me another, and then bright fuchsia left color streaked all over my skin. We never really thank you. What? You take care of us, she said quietly, her brilliant blue eyes locked in the teddy bear's form of her hands. It's not like you're maternal or anything, because really, fuck that. But you give a tough love, and you listen that there's interference that you run with the gardener in the private room of his. That's not something we need to talk about. All right, give me the clay and go wash your hands. Bemusedly I did, as she said, grabbing the fuchsia streaks over my skin. She handed me a turquoise ball of clay. This time I sat down beside her. I actually looked at all the pieces. Half the scattered teddy bear parts, head, paws, and tails, were black. The other half white. Some of them were actually been assembled in uniforms, the black shades of red and white and shades of blue. Half of each color were slightly larger and uniforms were more ornate, and several of them seemed to be paired. Are you making a chess set? Nazir's 20th birthday is in a couple of weeks, and my 18th birthday is just a few weeks after that. But birthdays aren't generally celebrated in the garden. It felt a little too much like mockery, like we were celebrating how much closer we are to death. Other people got look at the birthday and say, "Yay, 1 year older." We met our birthdays with 1 year less. It's not a birthday gift, Charlie. It's an "I'm sorry your life sucks so fucking much" gift. Good gift. It's a shitty timing, he agreed, and rolled into the tiny gold clay into a rope. He pinched it in half and twirled it together. The Red King got the shoulder braid in uniform. Do you hate him just a little too? More than a little. He would be going against his family, whereas he's just going against the common decency and the law. I sighed. I held out a softened clay and handed the ball of royal blue. And I knew better than to make one of the bears. My clay creation sucked. Bliss, I guarantee you there isn't a side of this I haven't turned over in my head. It stopped making sense a long time ago if it ever did. So just go with it and see what happens. Pretty much. He's coming. Footsteps down the hall and growing louder, and a moment later Desmond walked in and dropped to the floor beside me, handing each of us an orange. Is that a chess set? Bliss rolled her eyes and didn't answer. So while she made teddy bear soldiers, I needed clay, and Desmond played with his iPod and travel speaker to continue the concert. And that orange? First and only time I ever got the peel off in a perfect spiral. Edison finally returns holding 2 bags, one containing bottles of soda and water. The other approves of the meatball subs. When he gives one to the girl, he also pulls a small plastic bag from his pocket, sets it on the table for her. He picks up the bag and stares at the contents. My little blue dragon! I talked to the scene techs. They said your room is protected by the cliff. She sits down across the her, busying herself unwrapping a sub. Out of courtesy, Victor pretends not to see his blush. They'll box everything up for you once it's released, but they went ahead and gave me that one to pass on. She opens the bag and cradles a small clay creature in her hand. One thumb nudging me over the tiny pajama-clad teddy bear tucked in the crook of his arm. Thank you, she whispers. If you've been more than forthcoming, somewhat. He smiles. Vic, the scene techs are looking into the house. They'll let us know if they find the pictures. For a time, conversation stops as they eat. Though the girl has to wrap her tender hands in the napkins and hold the hot sandwich. When the meal is done, the debris is thrown away. She picks up the sad little dragon and curls her hands around it. Victor says it's his turn to be brave. What happened to Avery? What do you mean? Did his father punish him? No. They just had a long talk about respecting each other's privacy, and that the butterflies were not possessions to be passed around, but individuals to be cherished. To hear Des tell it, there was also a pretty sharp reminder that Avery wasn't allowed to touch me anyway, given the whole rebranding thing. Well, given the prior incident, and Des had never asked about the scar on my hip. If you don't ask, you don't keep your head buried in the sand. So things went back to normal, such as it was, but something had to change. Something did. Its name was Keeley. Or more properly, his name was Avery, and the victim was Keeley. I saw a lot less of Desmond once the semester started. It was a senior year, and he was carrying a full course load. And he came in the evenings and brought the textbooks so he'd study. Just like I'd help Whitney, Amber, and Noemi study once upon a time in the apartment, I helped him, without booze. Bliss helped too, but making fun of him whenever he got something wrong. Or even just not completely right. Bliss seized the opportunity to make fun of him, really. Avery's mood went from foul to worse as he watched his brothers being part of the garden. Like I said, most of the butterflies liked Desmond. He didn't ask anything of them. Well, he asked them questions and left it to them whenever they're not to answer. He asked their names sometimes, but somehow good tradition in the garden that you only give your name as goodbye. But we told him that Simone was once a Rachel Young, the Lionette had been Cassidy Lawrence. Any one of the ones we knew couldn't be hurt by the reminder. Desmond wasn't a threat to them. Avery, on the other hand, savaged Zaria so badly during that his father banned him for a full month. When that had dragged him into a void the hissy fit to try to follow, Zara could barely walk after that, and barely part of her was bruised. Someone stayed with her at all times to help her with basic functions like showering, getting to the toilet, and eating. Lorraine was a competent enough nurse, if hardly compassionate one, but she wasn't a miracle worker. Infection had set into Zara's hip. It was either take her to the hospital or put her in glass. Do you think you can safely guess which one the gardener chose? For the first time, she told us in the morning. She said we have a full day to make her with her to make our goodbyes. I gave him a sideways look as he told me that, which is met with a lopsided smile and a kiss in the temple. Even when it's just a swift embrace and stolen whisper, you share things with each other in those moments. If you can provide Zara and the rest of you any comfort, I'd like to see that you get it. I think I said thank you because it seemed expected, but a part of me wondered if it's better to just have it happen all at once rather than dragging out over the day. Before he left for class, Desmond brought a wheelbarrow so we could maneuver Zara through the garden. He smiled, and when he brought it, smiled as he kissed my cheek and left for school, and Bliss swore fluently as Tezer brushed. He doesn't know, does he? She planned to speak a language out of their obscenity. He really has no clue. He knows Zara is ill. He thinks he's doing something nice. Some things don't need a translator. That afternoon, while the gardener walked with his wife in that other greenhouse, which was much closer than it seemed, Zara pushed herself up and sitting on her bed. Sweat matted her fiery orange hair. Maya, Bliss, can you wheel me around for a bit? We folded a blanket into the wheelbarrow and arranged a few pillows around her. Stabilizing her hip as much as possible. It was her only broken bone, but it was decidedly the most painful. It's just a lap around the hallway, she instructed. Just looking for real estate? Bliss asked, and Zara nodded. It was something you couldn't help but wonder about. When you died, which case would you be in? I was pretty sure I knew which one the gardener had picked out for me. It was right beside Lionette, and positioned in such a way that you could see it from the cave. Bliss thought she'd be on the other side, just the three of us, hanging out forever in the fucking wall for future generations of butterflies to wonder about in fear. We walked slowly through the hall, me pushing the barrel and Bliss doing her best to stabilize the front. Zara stopped us in front of the entrance, where the scent of the honeysuckles filled the air and mixed with more chemical smell from one of the rooms we never ever saw open, like a tattoo room, Lorraine's room, and Avery's former playroom. The walls were opaque and solid, just a punch pad beside the honest-to-God door. We weren't supposed to be here, and I had still never seen Des put in the main door code. Do you think if I asked for this one, he'd give it to me? For the honeysuckle? No, because we all avoid this part. Well then, I wouldn't be seen as much. Ask him. Worst he could do is at this point is say no. If I asked him right now to kill me, would you? I studied the empty glass case because I didn't see if it was serious or not. Zara could be cruel, mocking the other girls until they cried, but she didn't have such a sense of humor. I guess I'm not that good of a friend, I said finally. Bliss said nothing. Do you think it hurts? She says it doesn't. And you believe him? No, I sighed, leaning against the door with a plant life. I don't think he knows one way or the other. I think he wants to believe there's no pain. What do you think she'll be like? Who? The next butterfly. She craned her head back to stare at me, her brown eyes fever bright. He hasn't gone hunting for a long time, not since Teresa. He's been so happy with Desmond here that he hasn't looked for anyone else. He might not go look. She snorted. And she didn't always, though. Sometimes the girls died and he didn't go hunting. Not until someone else died. Sometimes he brought back one girl, occasionally he brought back two. Though he hadn't done that during my time here. Trying to understand why the man did anything way he did was worthless endeavor. We were still standing when Lorraine came out of the room and started dinner. He seemed startled at first, with one hand flying in the dark chestnut hair, somewhat faded and heavily streaked with silver. Then she wore long and up, as the gardener preferred. Even though she never looked at her, ever commented on it, she still wore it that way. She glanced at the bandaged Zara, now pale, except for two bright blotches of red on her cheek, with an empty case. Zara's eyes frowned. Wishing you were in there, Lorraine? I don't have to put up with you, the woman retorted. I know how you can be. Physician wear the hope-fading blue eyes. You do? Yeah, magically become 30 years younger. I'm sure he'd love to kill and display you then. Lorraine sniffed and walked past us, slapping Zara's ankle on the way. The movement jarred a broken, infected hip. She bit back a scream. Bliss' eyes followed the cook nurse. I'll send Danielle to help you back. Why? Where are you? I took a second longer expression. Right. Never mind, Danielle. The grasping Zara and I jogged away. Do you suppose she's doing? She asked after a minute. I'm not asking. I don't want to know in advance, I said fervently. Depending on what it is, I may not want to know after the fact either. A few minutes later, not just Danielle, but very confused Marinka walked down the hall to join us. Should I ask what Bliss is doing? No, we answered together. So I shouldn't ask why she borrowed my scissors, murmured Marinka. A hand on her throat, the ribbon usually held her tiny embroidery scissors. Right. Danielle thought about that, accepted it, and lightly touched the edge of the wheelbarrow. Into the garden or back to your room? Room, groaned Zara. I think I need to take another painkiller. Between us, Danielle, and Marinka, I got her settled back in the bed with a glass of water, a happy pill. When Bliss walked in, hands held behind her back, and immediately satisfied look in her face. Oh God, I didn't want to know. I have a present for you, Zaria, she announced cheerfully. Avery's head on a platter. Close. She tossed something onto a coverlet. Zaria lifted up and stared at it, then blushed out laughing. It dangled from her hand, and slowly releasing her pattern, Lorraine's braid. Enjoy. I think I could take it with me. Danielle rubbed the ends of her hair between her fingers. We could probably rebraid part of it into a garter for you, or braid it into your hair like extensions. A crown, definitely. Everyone who came in through the afternoon and evening, another suggestion to make, and its indication of the universal concept for Lorraine. And no one expressed any sorrow or sympathy for the cook nurse. When it was time for dinner, we all took our trays and crowded into Zara's rooms, all 20 odd of us, knee to knee on the floor and even in the shower. Edward lifted up a glass of apple juice. To Zara, who could spit seeds farther than anyone else. We all laughed, even Zara, who raised a glass of water in return of the toast. Nazaria stood next, and I think we were all a little apprehensive about that one. Nariza and Zara got along as well as Avery and Desmond. To Zara, who might be a right bitch, but she's our bitch. Zara blew her a kiss. It was sick. I don't think there's a person who doubted that. It was sick and wrong and profoundly twisted, and yet somehow it made us feel a lot better. One by one, we all stood and made a toast to Zara, some mocking, some serious, and sure to be plenty of tears to be had, even if not by me. But maybe the gardener was right. Maybe this did help. When it was my turn, I stood and lifted my glass of water. To Zara, who's leaving us too soon, who we will remember in non-creepy fashion for the rest of our lives, however short they may be, added Bliss. How fucked up that we laughed. When everyone had taken their turns, Zara raised her glass once more. To Zara, she said quietly, because when she dies, Felicity Farrington will finally rest in peace. To Zara, we all murmured together and drained our glasses. When the gardener came, it was without a dress, but with Desmond. When he smiled to see us together, it's time, ladies. Slowly, everyone kissed Zara, gathered the trays, and filed out into the room, the gardener kissing each and every one of them on the cheek. I went until the end, perching on the side of the bed so I could take her clammy hand. Lorraine's silver streaking braid as she pinned the cornet and the double twist. Anything I could do? I whispered. She dug under her pillow and gave me a battered, dog-eared highlighted, and noted half a death copy of the Midsummer's Night Dream. I was only into theater in school, she said softly. When I was taken from the park, I was supposed to be meeting my friends for a rehearsal. I spent 3 years writing notes for a production I'll never do. Do you think you and Bliss could put together a reading for everyone? Just something to remember me by? I took the book and held it against my heart. I promise. Take care of the next girl and try not to visit me too much, okay? Okay. She pulled me into the tight hug and her fingers digging into my shoulders. Despite how calm she seemed, I could see her shaking. I let her hold as long as she wanted. I finally took a deep breath and pulled away. I kissed her cheek. I only just met you, Felicity Farrington, but I love you, and I will remember you. I guess that's as much as I can ask, she half hugged. Thank you, really and truly, for everything. You made it a lot easier than it would have been. I wish I could have done more. You do what's yours to do. The rest belongs to them. She jerked her head in the men's doorway. I guess you will see me in a couple of days. By the honeysuckle. So we'll almost never see you at all, I agreed. Almost inaudibly. I kissed her again and walked her to the room, holding a book so tightly my knuckles popped. Man, my knuckles popped too, but never by holding a book. I've had my knuckles popped because of a book before, but never by holding it. Basically, I dropped a really heavy book in my hand. As I promised you guys at the beginning of the video, I shall now tell you this. What are the final scores of tonight's Super Bowl?
Today, the Eagles won Super Bowl 59 after beating the Chiefs 40-22.
The Eagles have won. Congratulations to the Eagles and screw you to the Chiefs. I don't like the Chiefs. I don't like Travis Kelce. I don't like Taylor Swift. They rig things. Anyways, today we read pages 201 to 220, and next time we'll be reading pages 221 to 239. One of the first and probably one of 2 times where this is going to be like this. It's also the end of part 2, which means we're going to get an update for the bookmark, which I got to draw. Probably tonight. I don't know yet. It's kind of late. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. What I do know is that it's time for... Reading Corner of the Day, doing it up Stonsey's way, bop. Today we are learning about the Neapolitan Mastiff. Not chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry, but, you know, it's a dog. If it was a dog made of chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry, I'd be convinced. Though it looks like it has a lot of food stuck to its mouth at all times, look at that thing. It looks like it needs a good ironing. But before I can make fun of any animal, or really anything that I have any caring of, I should learn of its history. Not only does it make me look smart in front of my mom, my dad, my sister, my brother, or, you know, my Super Bowl cup for the Eagles that I stole, but it also makes me more credible. It makes me more credible. or more intelligence. That's the word I'm looking for. Sorry, late night. Intelligence doesn't necessarily lower down to just knowing things, but it also lowers down to knowing things and teaching them to others, in my opinion. Now, the history of the Neapolitan Mastiff is that the heavy-bodied dogs with powerful grips have been shown since ancient times. Tracing to the giant war dogs in the Middle East and Asia, they were used to control livestock, guard homes, and even fight men, lions, elephants in battle. Ugh, hiccup, hiccup, hiccup. Around 330 BC, Alexander the Great dispersed from native giant Macedonian war dogs in the lands that he dispersed from giant native Macedonian dogs. He conquered and crossed some of the short-haired dogs from India. The resulting molossus became a progenitor of many modern breeds. When the Romans took over Greece, they also took over molossus dogs. In 55 BC, the Romans invaded Britain, where they admired and appropriated fierce British Mastiff dogs that fought valiantly defending Britain. These British Mastiffs are even better gladiators than the molossus dogs, and when bred together, they produce an unsurpassed strain of giant gladiators and war dogs. These dogs, called Mastini, Italian for Mastiffs, were dispersed further in the Neapolitan area in the south of Italy. They were perfected over the next centuries guarding estates and homes. Still, the breed remained virtually unknown to the rest of the world but until the chance sighting the Naples Dog Show of 1946. Pier Scanziani recognized the dog and solicited the fanciers to help rescue the breed from obscurity. They drew up a standard of the petition in the Italian Kennel Club, and the FCI, who recognized them under the name Mastino Napolitano, although a few specimens may have come to America with Italian immigrants, only in the 1970s has the breed been documented in the United States. They immediately elicited a great interest in the breed. Club was formed around 1973. An initial standard was approved by the American Kennel Company in 1996, and they entered the American Kennel Company Working Group in 2004. A crazy and wild history of this dog. So you want it. You want this dog in your home. So what's the temperament? Are they good with kids? And do they drool a lot? It looks like they do. Well, the temperament of the Neapolitan Mastiff is that the Neapolitan Mastiff was a bred of centuries for guard his family as such. It's incredibly loyal and devoted to his family, watchful and suspicious of strangers and tolerant of acquaintances. It's a stay-at-home type dog. Although it's loving toward children, its sheer size can make accidents possible, and it may not get along as well as other dogs, especially domineering type dogs. Because of its size, it can be carefully socialized at an early age. Interesting. So what's the upkeep? How do I keep this vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry dog up and running? Well, the Neos don't need a lot of exercise, but they do need a lot of living space. This is a giant breed that should be not expected to squeeze into tight quarters and maneuver around priceless keepsakes. They enjoy outdoors, but do not tolerate warm weather well. As with any giant breed, food, boarding, and even veterinary bills can be higher. They drool and they leave a trail of food and water leading from their bowls. This is not a breed for the obsessive house cleaners. Wow. Now, if you're a kid, please cover your ears and go watch, I don't know, Drewski or Phantom Tax. Phantom? I don't know his name. I don't watch garbage like that. But if you are a teenager and adult, please listen in, as I'm going to be talking about the health, major concerns, minor concerns, what they're occasionally seen with, though it's nothing for this breed, suggested tests, their lifespan, and a note from second edition D. Caroline Coyle, PhD. Their major concerns are CHD, cardiomyopathy, and desmosicitis. Their minor concerns are cherry eye and elbow dysplasia, like pink eye, but worse. They're occasionally seen with nothing. The suggested tests are for the hip, elbow, and cardiac eye. Their lifespan is 8 to 10 years, though larger individuals tend to live toward a shorter end of the range. And then it's a note that says, breeding often requires artificial insemination and castration delivery. Now, imagine this picture is in front of you. What's the form and what's the function? How can I see it and describe it? Well, the form and function is that it's a massive side made even more imposing by its abundant loose skin and dewalp. The Napoleon Mastiff may have the most alarming appearance of any dog, and some say its look is purposely bred in order to scare away intruders. Without a dog having to act, however, be forced to act, the Neo can spring into action at surprising speed. Its massive muscular body can knock down almost any intruder. Its huge head can short, powerful jaws and large teeth can crush and hold an opponent. The skin is tough and hanging, adding the position and impression of a size as well as formidable expression. Now, for the final section of the tier list final section of the video is the tier list, not the final expression of part of today's tier list is a video. That would be silly. Now, 5 is the best, 4 is better, 3 is average, 2 is worse, and 1 is the worst unless it comes to grooming. Now, the energy level is out of 2. Exercise requirements and playfulness are at a 1, which is good for the exercise requirements, but playfulness not so much. Affection level is out of 4, so very loving, very slobbery. Friendliness towards dogs and strangers is out of 1, so not good. Friendliness towards other pets is out of 2, so not good. And ease of training is as well as out of 2. Watchdog and protection ability are out of 5, so pretty high. Grooming requirements are out of 2, so up there, but not very. Cold tolerance is out of 4, while heat tolerance is out of 1. The healthy weight of a male Neopolitan Mastiff is 150 pounds, and a female is 110, though the greater weight is usual. And the height of a Neapolitan Mastiff male is 26 to 31 inches, and a female is 24 to 29 inches. And it wouldn't be feet, and because if it was, we'd be living in a world of giants. Not really giant. Well, it's actually pretty giant, but it looks like it's more friendly than it is this one. It's the next breed of dog we're going to be talking about, which is the one that we talk about in the next episode. So, hope you guys have a super fantastic, wonderful day. Be polite, be efficient. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you guys are happy about the Super Bowl winnings, and hope you guys are happy about the second to last normal episode. As next episode is going to be a little abnormal, and the episode after that should be normal, and then the final episode is pretty quick. So yeah, hope you guys have a fantastic, wonderful day, and I'll see you guys next time.